Joy of Pi and the Flying Book. I mean, it's needless to say that is like such a treat to have you here with us. How are you?
Oh, I am doing great. I'm so happy to be here, Izzy. Thank you so much. This is going to be great. We're going to have a lot of fun looking at Adobe InDesign. It is true that I have done all these other crazy things like write about airplanes and the number pi. Do remember, though, that Pi Day is coming up in a couple weeks, 3/14, at least for those of us who put the month first. It's 3/14. Pi Day is coming up in just a couple weeks. That's very exciting for some of us. But today we're talking about InDesign.
InDesign, that's it. And
Yes.
I have to say that today it is like a full circle moment for me because I have seen you at Adobe Max and I remember leaving your session so enlightened and I automatically felt like a new designer. For everyone watching today, I mean, you are in for a treat. Speaking of, I would love to say a hello to people in the chat. Hello, Oliver, Wade, Susan, Robert. It is so good to see you here. And of course, thank you for tuning in to Adobe Live. Join the Adobe Live community on YouTube, our YouTube channel. Follow us at Adobe Live on Instagram for the latest stream and updates and much, much more. So David, please take the stage. I know we have a lot to cover today. So can we get a quick introduction and dive right into it?
Sure, absolutely. This is going to be fun. The goal of today's session is to talk about how to learn InDesign a little bit better. We want to just up-level everybody, whether you're a beginner to InDesign or if you've been using it for a few months or a year or something. We want to make sure that you are getting better. And part of getting better is just learning some of the basics, some of the basic information. And I'm not talking about how to put text on a page. I'm talking about some of the hidden features inside InDesign, the things that are not immediately obvious. And yet, if you know them, you can become so much more productive. That's our goal today. We want to make you more productive. I need to tell you, little embarrassing admission or something. I am not a designer. You know, I know a lot of people who come onto Adobe Live they could design all kinds of amazing things. My goal is not to show you how to do beautiful design. It's how to be efficient and productive in your work with Adobe InDesign. You can go off and do amazing work if you have these tools. If you don't understand how to be efficient and productive, then you're constantly going to be like, oh, I have a deadline. I just have to get this thing done. And you won't have time to be really creative. So you learn the fundamentals, the efficiency and productivity tips in order to save yourself enough time in the work so that you can really have a lot of time to be creative and do the design work, which we all love.
Exactly. And do you know what my mind went to when you said that? Is imagine how much of a superpower you can, or a super designer you can be if you have the creativity and the efficiency. That's like superstar level.
Exactly. That's what we're hoping for. So just a couple more quick things about me. Is that you mentioned that I run CreativePro. We have a magazine, CreativePro Magazine, which actually used to be InDesign Magazine. Now it's CreativePro Magazine. We also run CreativePro Week, which is a 5-day event, which is going to be in June in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. This coming June. It's going to be wonderful and really exciting because we cover InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, Acrobat, PowerPoint, all kinds of stuff. All the professional tools that designers use, we cover that all week long, focusing on the how-to. Really, how do you become, again, productive and efficient and do amazing work in these tools? So check those out, CreativePro and CreativePro Week, of course. Also, I want to point out, and this is super, super important for everybody here, I want to point out that I have set up some handouts, a PDF with a bunch of tips and tricks and stuff that you can download from this session. So let me just jump over. Oops, I'm in InDesign. Jump over to InDesign. You can get those handouts with this link, and I'm hoping that link is here on the Adobe Live page. But if not, take a screenshot or something.
It is. It's in the chat. It's in the chat, and it is.
Oh, good,
yes.
Good. So it's in the chat. Download this PDF. It's just like It's not that big. And it has lots of tips and tricks. It also has a bunch of keyboard shortcuts that you're going to want. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the first tip for today is learn some keyboard shortcuts. So many people jump into InDesign or Photoshop or Illustrator or any of these tools, and they just, I look over their shoulders while they're working, and they're like going to the menu or going to the tool, everything's, if you want to be efficient and productive, just learn a few keyboard shortcuts. So that in the PDF, there's a whole bunch of shortcuts in the back of it. So super, super easy. And little tip, pro tip, don't try and learn them all at once. Just learn like one per day. Just set today I'm going to learn an InDesign keyboard shortcut. Learn that, use it 3, 4, 10 times so it gets into your hands, right? Because we don't learn with our brain. We don't learn how to use.
That's true.
At least, right? We use it. We learn with our hands. How does the keyboard shortcut feel in our hands? So you start to become more efficient by using those shortcuts. So keyboard shortcuts in there in the PDF. There's a bunch of there's a bunch of tips. A lot of the tips we're covering today, if I go by too quickly, a lot of these tips are in that PDF handout. So that is important for you to know about. It's also links to the event stuff. I'm going to encourage everybody also to check out the starter kit. CreativePro, we've been doing CreativePro for a very long time, decades now. And one of the things we love doing is giving stuff away. We love just giving stuff away for free for InDesign users, Photoshop users, Illustrator users. And if you are an InDesign user, which I assume you are because you're here watching this today, and you want like InDesign tips and tricks and starter templates and cool, all kinds of cool resources that you can use with InDesign, just go to this URL or click on the link in the PDF. It's free. It's all free. You can download, you sign up, you can download that starter kit with a bunch of tips and tricks in it. You also can sign up for the InDesign Tip of the Week email. So every week we send out a new InDesign tip, goes right to your email. And, for those who like that sort of thing, as Oscar Wilde said, that is exactly the sort of thing they like. So I hope you check that out, get your handouts, and that will be another step in your path toward greater efficiency and productivity. Okay, so everyone has them? Everyone's set? Is it you have your handouts?
Yes.
All
well,
right.
I mean, we can see people in the chat that are downloading them. So definitely we are ready to roll.
Okay, so we want to roll with, I mentioned keyboard shortcuts, learn some keyboard shortcuts. You'll be seeing me use those, and I will try and remember to say them out loud as I work. I'm going to jump into a fundamental tip. Now, this is, again, one of those tips that people who learn InDesign quickly, in other words, they start using InDesign and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to jump in and use it. They often don't learn this very fundamental tip, which is that you can do math in all the fields. Okay, so for example, with this graphic here, I've got this graphic in the upper left corner. Let's zoom in on that a little bit. And I want to move this down the page by, let's say, 4 millimeters. So the first thing I notice in the upper left corner, I should point this out. I see a control panel. I see a control panel. You may not see this control panel at the top of your page. In fact, if you're a beginner user, you're probably going to be seeing something that looks more like this. Let's switch this over, and you can see that there's a properties panel down the right side and nothing along the top, and a lot of stuff is hidden for you. What we're experiencing right here is InDesign's workspace feature. Up here in the options bar at the top of the screen, there's a pop-up menu, and there's a bunch of different workspaces. This is one of the most important things when you start using InDesign is do yourself a huge favor and don't use essentials. This essentials thing is like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just don't show me anything that might scare me. I don't know. I hate this essentials workspace. You want to change this to advanced. Now, I know a lot of you aren't advanced users, but that's okay. Advanced doesn't mean that you have to be an advanced user. It just means you want to see all the features that InDesign has to offer. So change this up here. You can also change it in the window menu, window, workspace, and all of those same workspaces are here inside the window menu. So choose advanced to get more features, but don't stop there. There's more. Don't stop with advanced. You want to change InDesign to work the way you work, not the way that the folks at Adobe think you should work. Don't just say, okay, well, I guess this is all the panels I'm going to need. I'm not going to open anymore. You want to change it to the way you work. So what do I mean by that? I mean, for example, I love the glyphs panel. So I'm going to go to the window menu and choose under type and tables. See if I can do this. Glyphs. There we go. Whoops. Showed up over here. So let me move the glyphs panel. We're going to be talking about the glyphs panel a little bit later. I love this feature. So I'm going to, I can have it open on the screen, but I don't have a lot of screen real estate right here. So I'm going to drag the little handle at the top and move it over. And can you see there's a little blue line in what's called the dock on the right side? I can dock it over here. So I just drop it in there. Now, whenever I want it, it's open, close, and so on. I love having the info panel. That turns out to be super useful. Let's bring this over, and I'm going to put it right at the top of my dock up here. You can change this any way you want. Add the panels you want. And if you are working on a small screen like we are right here, then we don't need to see all of this. Just drag, if you put your cursor just to the left of the dock, it turns into a double-headed arrow. And now you can drag that off to the right and it docks, it sort of snaps closed. Now we just see the icons, right? And that, I really like working like this. Now today, I'm going to not do that. I'm going to pull it out just because for some of you, it's more helpful to see the names. So that's okay. But if once you get used to the names and you see the icons, you're like, okay, I know that that's the links panel and so on. Move it over, make it smaller. Then, okay, one more step. We customize InDesign to the way that we work. And then we go back to the workspace menu and we say new workspace. Save your workspace. Always customize it to the way that you work, the panels you want to open, the ones you don't want to open, whatever. In fact, I'm going to open one more here. I go to properties. So now I have the properties panel and this dock over here. And then I can say new workspace, which really should be called save workspace. But I'm going to say my Adobe Live space and click OK. Now, the great thing about this is sooner or later, you're going to be dragging panels out. You're going to be moving them around your screen. You're going to be working, doing all the stuff that you normally do because as you work, your screen is going to fill up with panels and it's going to be a mess. It's a disaster.
Yeah. Guilty.
But I think there's a document back there. I think I see some text. It's okay, because we can always go back to the workspace and say reset. And reset is your friend. Reset puts it all back to the way it was. So now I've saved my own. I've got one here called David's Workspace. So I'm going to use that for a while. And you can see that I've minimized it. I have, but I can quickly get to all of the different, I can get to the properties panel if I want to. They're all in these docks on their side. So I'm maximizing my use of the screen real estate, and I am keeping my screen clean and tidy until it gets messy, and then I just tidy it with the reset again. So I love that feature.
If only I could do the same thing for my office in real life.
Oh my,
right?
Yes, yes, I want that feature. I really want that feature. Yeah, if you saw what's not behind me, but here, yeah, I really need that feature bad. So workspaces. Before I started talking about workspaces, I was talking about doing math in the fields, right? That's where this whole thing started. And I was talking about the control panel up here. When you're in the advanced workspace, or if you just choose window control, you get this control panel at the top of the screen, which I like. It works for me. It's a little overwhelming at first, but once you get used to those, what it lets you do, it basically gives you access to everything about everything that's on your page. So I like that. So I'm going to select this object, this graphic, and I can see up here in the control panel that this is 6 picas from the left side of the page and 5 pica 3. Now, picas is years ago, long time ago, I wrapped my head around using picas and points. It's a very typical measurement system for graphic designers. There's 6 picas to an inch. There's 12 points per pica. So I don't know. I got used to it, and I like it because it allows me to make very small, precise measurement changes as I work. To me, it's easier than millimeters or inches or anything like that. So I like using picas and points, but you don't have to. You don't have to. Just because it's the default doesn't mean you can't change it. Again, use InDesign, set up InDesign to work the way you want it to work, not the way I want you to work or the folks at Adobe want you to work, right? You can change this to anything you want. So for example, the main way that you're going to change these settings is by going to the Preferences dialog box. On the Mac, Preferences lives under the InDesign menu. On Windows, it lives at the bottom of the Edit menu. But either way, you could press Command or Control-K to open up your Preferences dialog box. And then you can come down here and say Units and Increments. And right here, we can change this to picas or inches or millimeters or agates, if you're, I don't know anyone who works in agates, but you can change this to anything you want. Now, I'm just going to say there's an even faster way. There's always a faster way. There's a faster way to change your measurements if you're working quickly on the fly. You see the rulers on the left side and the top of the page here? Mm-hmm. Where they intersect in the middle, if you right-click on that, right-click on it with your 2-button mouse, on the right-click on it, and you get control of all of the measurements in here. So we can quickly say, all right, let's work in millimeters or whatever else you want to work in. That is super helpful, and it'll change both rulers at the same time. So now we can see we're in millimeters up here, and that's pretty good. I've tried to use millimeters. Please forgive me, Izzy. I've tried. I can't do it. I'm going to go back to picas and points. But I just want everyone to know you can change them if you...
I actually did not know that about the inner corner. This is great. We do have a question from the chat. Great. So first of all, we have Oliver, who was going like, after you showed how to save a workspace, like the emoji that does this, yes, which is really cool. And then Clever is asking, must you save a new one when you need a change? It seems not to be editable once saved. Like, does it override?
What a great point. Yes, and first of all, I love you acting out the emoji. I think we need to do that the entire time. Yes, right. It says new workspace, and that's one of the reasons why I think it should be called save workspace. It does. If you save it with the same name, like I'll just go back here and I can choose this out of the little pop-up menu. If I choose the same name, it will overwrite what was there. It's a great question.
There you go. Yes, excellent question.
So, okay, so I don't know how long ago, a long time ago, I said I want to move this down 4 millimeters. That's what started me on this whole discursion into all these other workspace and preferences and so on. I want to move this object, this graphic, down 4 millimeters. So I'm going to go up to here to the control panel. And the first thing I'm going to do before I change anything is I want to look on the far left side at the proxy, I don't know what that's called, a reference point, let's say. And this reference point is super, super important in InDesign. This says what is going to, either what's going to move or when we transform this, rotate it or whatever, what's going to change. So right now, if it's in the lower left corner, it means all of these settings up here in the control panel or over here in the properties panel, everything's going to be based on the lower right corner. So I'm going to say I want to move the lower right corner down some amount, or it could be upper, because I'm moving, it doesn't really matter. Let's say the lower right corner down. So I'm going to change the Y value. And I hope you can see this. You might have to squint. It's kind of tiny. But this says 24 picas. I'm working in picas and points, as I said. and I want to move it down 4 millimeters. I have no idea how to convert millimeters to points. I don't know, but that's okay because InDesign does. So all I have to do is say plus 4 mm. That's it. Just make sure you put the mm there for millimeters, plus 4m, and when I hit return or enter, it moves it down.
This is for you. Hold on.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the hard one is going to be the mind blown when people start. Yeah,
exactly.
I think that this ability to do math in any field, not just these fields here, any field that has a number is incredibly useful. Incredibly useful. If you want to, let's say you're creating a new document, whoa, and you make your whole page go away. That didn't work well. I'm having a little problem with my, sorry about that. I'm having a little problem with my keyboard here. So let's say you're making a new document and I want this to be, I don't know, something crazy. Like the height, I want to be half of 51 picas. And I'm like, I can't figure that out in my head. I mean, look, I bought a computer so it would do the work, right? That's the reason. So all you have to do is say divided by 2, /2, and hit tab and it figures it out for you. Boom, you're done. So you can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. Multiplication is with an asterisk, right? So if I say I want this to be, let's say I want this to be move over times 1.2, I don't know, whatever that is, times 1.2. So that's 20% more. And now it just moves it over. So it expands that space. Super, super helpful to do math in any field. Really good stuff. Okay. Any questions?
That's great.
Questions about math?
I have a lot of questions about math because there's a reason why I went into design, because I was really bad at math.
Exactly. This is the kind of thing that the computer is supposed to do for you. So here's a typical example. Especially in the States, people are always trying to do things like a printer or somebody will say, can you move this 1/8 of an inch over?
That's
like
it.
An eighth of an inch. An eighth of an inch is point something. I don't know. So if I want to move this over 1/8 of an inch, again, in this case, I go up to the X field and I say plus 1/8 inch. Boom. That's 1/8 of an inch.
Amazing.
I don't want to have to try and figure that stuff out. Okay, so math is really helpful.
We actually have a comment again from Oliver, who did use the emoji earlier and said boom with
boom.
explode.
There we go.
Boom. Exactly.
Boom.
We do have another question. Can it calculate square root of 1 with a smiley face?
That is an excellent question. No, but you can manually come in here and type I. And so for those of you who get that math joke, you will get the math joke. Okay. Boom, by the way, since you're in Ottawa, you will, I have to ask you this question about French. Somebody was recently asking about the word voilà, like et voilà, right? And trying to come up with an English translation for that, which is tricky. There's a lot of words that there's no precise translation. And so my translation for that is boom.
Yeah, it does make sense. I think like direct translation would be there you go, because it could be like, yeah, there you go, it's right there. Yes. But boom would be when it's like voila, like when there's a lot of expression like added to it. I see. Well, it's good to add a lot of expression, so absolutely. Okay. Any other questions, or we should move on? That's all we have for questions for now, but I think people are taking notes, which is like, because this is good. Amazing. And can you also like believe that we're already in like 30 minutes in the live? It goes by so fast. It does. And the good news is we only have about 7.5 more hours of tips. So
Oh wait, we don't have that much time. Okay, well, we
No,
better
we have
move
an
along.
hour.
An hour. We're gonna push through. So we talked about saving your workspaces. There's another thing you can do in customizing InDesign to the way you work, and that is to change your keyboard shortcuts. I don't know how well you can see this on the screen, but there are a lot of ways to customize InDesign to the way you work so that you will become more efficient. And they seem somewhat boring. Like, well, really, do I need to customize my shortcuts? But after you start learning your shortcuts, you're going to realize there's a bunch of features that I sure wish there was a feature for that. I sure wish there was a keyboard shortcut so I could be more efficient. And the good news is that InDesign has hundreds and hundreds of keyboard shortcuts that you can assign manually. So I just want to point this out. Under the edit menu, you can choose keyboard shortcuts. And the first thing you're going to do in here is you're going to click new set. And the new set is going to give you one. I've already done that. So I have a David's shortcut set. Just name it whatever you want. Mine is David's. And now you can start customizing these to whatever you want. Now, here's the problem. As I said, there's hundreds of these that you could change. How do you find them? How do I know? Like, for example, I mentioned earlier that there's something called the glyphs panel. The glyphs panel is wonderful because it allows you to insert special characters that you may not typically know how to type, or often there may be no way to type them at all. They're hiding in the font, but you can't type them, so I'll show you that in just a second. But here's one of my favorite things to add is once you add a special character, you often need to add it a bunch of times. Like the rupee symbol. This is one of, if you're doing stuff for India, the rupee symbol or the euro symbol, there's a number of characters that I can't type on my keyboard, but I'm going to need them over and over again. So there is a feature built into InDesign called insert most recent glyph. So whatever special character you inserted, do it again and again and again. Now that's the kind of thing that I want a keyboard shortcut for. This is for me, the way I work. May not be for you. But the problem is I have no idea where in here that feature is going to be. So the trick is to click on Show Set. Click on Show Set, and it'll open up this text file in Notepad or TextEdit or whatever you've got, and then just search for it. And I'm going to say Insert Most Recent. There it is. Glyph. I don't know how well you can see that. Again, this text is tiny, tiny, tiny. Oh, let's make it bigger. There we go. Insert Most Recent Glyph. And over here, it says none defined. There's no keyboard shortcut for that. So if I scroll up here, and you'll see there's a lot of none defined, all these features that none defined. If I scroll all the way up, I'm going to see a section. Come on. There we go. Product area. Whoa. Product area, panel menus. This product area is what I need for when I come back to my keyboard shortcuts dialog box in InDesign. I'm going to say product area was panel menus. And then I'm going to scroll down to glyphs, maybe, if I'm coordinated, which I don't feel today, and say glyphs, insert most recent glyph. So I found the feature. That's how I find the feature in InDesign. And now I simply type the shortcut I want down here. Now, in this case, I'm going to change this context to text, which means the keyboard shortcut is only going to work when I'm editing text, when my cursor is inside a text frame, right? And I'm going to say, I'll pick something, anything. Whoa, that didn't. Control 1. I'll try that. On the Mac, Control is not usually used, so it's a good one to use for other things. So I'm going to say Control 1 in text, assign, and now every time I hit Control 1 on my Mac, it's going to insert the most recent glyph. Should we try it?
We should try it.
Let's try it out. So I just placed my text cursor inside this this frame over here, this text frame that I happen to have on the page. I placed it by double clicking. This is just a little thing that every InDesign user needs to know. Double click on a text frame and it switches to the type tool and places the cursor where you clicked. Then I'll zoom in to 200% by pressing Command 2 or Control 2 on Windows. Let's go to 4, Command 4 or Control 4. And then I want to insert a special character. So we saw earlier how you can find the glyphs panel under the type and tables section. You can also find it under the the type menu here, or in this case, I've already docked it over here. So I'm going to just pull this out so we can see this better. And this shows me all the different glyphs that are inside the font. All those amazing glyphs. And somewhere in here, there's a character I need. And this could take a long time to search through all those, right? So much better to click in this little search area here and say, I want the rupee symbol in this case. I don't know. I just grabbed something. To insert this symbol, I simply double click on it and it inserts it. That's it. We're done. Let's move this off to the side. So I don't need that here, but let's say price equals, oh yeah, how do I get that again? I could come back to the glyphs panel to type it, but I just made a keyboard shortcut, which is insert the most recent glyph I used. So Control-1, boom, it types it for me. I just type the keyboard shortcut and I can say this is going to be 500 rupees. So anytime you need that, and you can see the most recent one is up here in the glyphs panel. Can you kind of see that at the top here? That's the most recent glyph that I used. That's the one that keyboard shortcut is going to grab over and over again whenever I use it. So good stuff. Let's go ahead and reset this.
That is so cool. We have Rob Magnell saying that's a beauty move.
Excellent. Excellent. It's all about getting more efficient. The more you customize InDesign to the way you work, not the folks at Adobe, the more you customize to the way you work, the more efficient and productive you're going to be. But here's the key phrase. My favorite. This is Blatner's first rule of everything, really, but especially InDesign. Take time now to save even more time in the future. That's the key. Take a little bit of time now on a weekend, an evening, whatever, whenever you don't have a deadline, take a little time to set up InDesign to the way you work because you will be more efficient in the future. I'm going to go back to the preferences dialog box, Command or Control K, and there's a lot of stuff in here that allows you to customize InDesign to the way you work. So I mentioned earlier the units and increments. You can change this. Now, I do want to point out, though, that when you change these, most of these settings, if you change them while a document is open, it will only change that one document. And then next time you create a new document, you have to set them again. So here's the trick. Close all your documents. Close all the documents, and then go into preferences and start making changes. And that changes the default settings for InDesign. When no documents are open and you make a change, it will change for all new documents you create. Well, it doesn't change the old documents, but it does change all new documents. So that's a super important tip for dealing with preferences and customizing InDesign to the way that you work. Some people don't like the increments that they get when they press the keyboard shortcuts, so you can change those here. There are a couple other things I want to point out, a couple other preferences that I really, really want you to change. Okay, this is for almost anybody. One is under appearance of black. Now this I'm going to say is a print thing. So for those of you who are doing InDesign for print, here's a preference you need to change. On screen, change from display all blacks as rich black to display all blacks accurately. If you're using InDesign for interactive documents, for web or publish online, PDFs that are mostly going to be viewed online and so on, then you might not need this. But if you're doing print, you have to change this to display all blacks accurately. A lot of InDesign users don't realize that black ink is not black. It's just kind of dark charcoal gray. So you want to display it accurately so you have a clear sense of, oh, that's just black. It's not really dark. I would need to add some color to make it really solid black. Have you run into that before, Izzy?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's not fun to get something back from a printer and realize, oh, geez, I just used black ink when I wanted to use what's called rich black.
Rich black, exactly.
Right, which is black, typically with cyan, magenta, and yellow built in as well. So make sure you're displaying accurately. So that's an important one. Here's another one that whether you're doing print or interactive or I don't care what, you want to change this one. I've been trying to get Adobe to change this for over 20 years. Apply leading to entire paragraphs. This checkbox is off by default. What the heck does that mean? Let me just zoom back here and look at this text. Okay, so we're looking at a text in a text frame, and I'm going to select some text, and I'm going to change the leading of this. What just happened? I just changed the leading for just that text. So that means my leading for my whole paragraph is completely discombobulated. I hate that. Let me undo that. Here's where, I don't know if you've seen that. I see this all the time.
Oh, yes.
The last line has the wrong leading.
Yes.
Right? This is because in InDesign, 20 plus years ago, Adobe decided that in InDesign, leading, which is the amount of spacing, the baseline to baseline spacing, should be a character attribute, not a paragraph attribute. And so for 20 years, we've been dealing with paragraphs like this, with a last line or one line in the middle has different spacing. And it's, I don't work for Adobe, right? So I can say this, it's horrible. So, but the good news is you can change it. You can change it to what you want. And the way you change that is to go to Preferences, click on Type, and turn on this one preference. That's all you need to do. Apply leading to entire paragraphs. So now, whenever I change, this is still wrong. It doesn't fix anything that was wrong there. But anytime I change my preference, my leading, let's say to 14, whoa, that looks weird. Sorry. Sometimes I don't know if you saw that, but the screen has trouble updating, so I just have to change something. Like I just deselected the text. A little redraw problem. But anyway, I just changed that one thing. Say I'll try it again. Oh wow, I have weird problems today. Anyway, you got the idea. I changed the leading in one part of the paragraph, and it changes it for the entire paragraph, which in my humble opinion is the way it should work. So go in, change that preference while no documents are open, and your life will be happier. That's ultimately what it's all about, right? Is make your life happier.
That's it. Time is a resource, right? It's
Yeah.
It's like money, really.
Yeah. Save yourself time, money, and heartache by changing those preferences. Go through, I don't have time to go through all of these, but there's a number of them in there that I just think you should change. I'll throw out one more little one that I always love to change, and that's Greek type below. I don't know if you've ever seen this. If I zoom back, it's really hard to see on the screen, I'm sure, but all my text just turned to gray lines, little gray lines. And that's called Greeking text. And it's really, I don't like it at all because it's text. I want to see that it's text. They're not gray lines. So you can change that by changing the Greek type below to like 2 points. And you change it under high quality and you change it under typical quality. And now you won't see that anymore. It's great. It's really, really helpful. So little changes to make yourself a little bit more efficient and enjoy the work in InDesign more. Do we have time for just one more preference? One more preference.
Oh, absolutely.
Again, customizing InDesign to the way you work. Take some time now to save time in the future. One of the things that I encourage all InDesign users to do is add styles or colors, again, while no documents are open. This is super important. You close all your documents just because, well, let's just go ahead and do this. I'm just going to close this document and close this document. While no documents are open, it doesn't seem like you can do anything, but there's a trick. Click on the little InDesign icon here, and that switches you into the mode where you can actually do stuff in InDesign while no documents are open. So let's say I always like using a certain color, my company color. So I'm going to say new color swatch, and I'm just going to pick a random color here, just whatever this color is. Let's make this a little bit brighter. I want that color to be my company value. So I'll turn off this checkbox and say my company brand color. There we go. Click OK. And now it adds it to the swatches panel, but there were no documents open. But the good news is every time you create a new document, it's there. It's there. We've customized InDesign. We've changed InDesign's defaults, so that color will always be available with every new document we create. So By the way, I created that new document by pressing Command Option N or Control Alt N on Windows, which is just a shortcut for give me a new document quickly. It just opens up a default document. Okay, you tell me a question or ask something while I hydrate, because that's important.
So, yes, very important. So we have Oliver saying, I detected your live stream. Now it's going to play up. So we have Rob who's saying, we leave that off. I'm not sure what that is, but because we talk about so much.
Yeah.
As we build a lot of advertisement using single it's the leading. So advertising using single line composing and a different leading in one paragraph, but change it to editorial layout. Yes, I can see how that's a problem. And then we have Clever saying, I make forms and break rules, so there's time where the whole leading doesn't fly.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually a really good point. I was emphasizing that you should always have the apply leading to entire paragraphs on. But there are times when you want to turn it off, and doing detailed like ads is a great example. So like this is a single paragraph. I know it's a single paragraph, by the way, because I'll go to the type menu and choose show hidden characters. And when that's on, I can see these little blue characters, super, super helpful. And I can see that this is all one paragraph that ends right there. That character, that blue number sign is the, or hashtag, whatever you want to call it, means end of the story. There's no more. This is a special character that means new line. It's shift return or shift enter, breaks to the new line, but keeps it the same paragraph. Really, really helpful feature for all kinds of reasons. We have a guide to all the weird little symbols in hidden characters. If you download that starter kit, I mentioned that in the handouts for this session, at the beginning in the handouts, you go to creativepro.com and you sign up to get the starter kit, free starter kit. One of the features in there, one of the things in the starter kit that you get for free is the guide to InDesign special characters. So you know what all these weird little characters are about. So that's a separate thing. Anyway, so there are times when you want to be able to change just one line at a time. So this is a single character, but I was using keyboard shortcuts, in this case, Option or Alt up arrow, to change the leading. And I can do this very precisely, just one line at a time. And that's no doubt about it. There are times that you want to be able to do that. Instead of changing all the leading for the entire paragraph, you would change it. Now, in those cases, what I would do is I'd simply go in here and I would turn this checkbox off. And then when I'm done, I'll turn it back on again. Because again, 99% of the time, I want to apply the same leading to the entire paragraph. And then 1% of the time, I want to do detailed little stuff like that when I'm just doing one line at a time. Okay, so I hope that's helpful.
Very helpful.
Let's go back to, here we go. Oh, I lost my text. That's okay. We'll wing it. I closed that document.
Oh no.
Yes. Oh yes. So what I was trying to get to was simply add paragraph styles, add colors, customize it to the way you work with no documents open, change your preferences, and then you will become more efficient as you go. So little things make big, big differences.
Yes. Proficiency is the word of the day.
Yes. So let's go looking at something else here. My tiger layout here.
Oh, look at that.
Let's take a look at some paragraph style stuff. Actually, this is going to be a number of different features that I want to point out. This is the way we want this chapter to look. This is from Jungle Book, and I want it to look kind of like that. But typically, I'm going to jump into a little bit more advanced topic here. I hope that's okay. But typically, when I place something in file place, and I'll grab the not that, but my tiger document. Generally, what happens is I place it, and it looks like this. Because somebody in Microsoft Word or some other tool somebody has gone in and added all kinds of what we call local formatting on top of the text. This is just like, 90% of the time, you don't import text and go, wow, it's perfect. You import it and there's a bunch of formatting. And this is a major hassle. Let me, make sure. Let me make this go away. Sorry, I'm having a, I see what I did here.
It's okay. It's live. This is bound to happen.
Yeah.
Small stuff like this.
I just want to make sure I've got more room here, so I just want to make that smaller. So how do we clean this up? How do we clean this up to make it look right? Well, the reason that the formatting came in properly at all, or even close to properly, was that there's paragraph styles. So I just want to say quickly, paragraph styles are incredibly important in InDesign. Paragraph styles and character styles. Two different things, two different panels in InDesign. And in Word, best case scenario, somebody has laid out all this text in Word and applied the paragraph styles, heading and body and this and that appropriately in Word. And then when I import it into InDesign, as long as the styles have exactly the same name, then it'll just map across properly. So it'll look just right. So that's really, really helpful. So mapping styles that's a whole separate topic for another day. We could talk about styles and Word and all of that. But I wanted to say a couple things that catch up a lot of InDesign users, not just beginners, but advanced people too. I find doing this, they'll apply either a paragraph style to the entire paragraph or a character style to the entire paragraph, or worse, both. They're like, I have a character style and I've got a paragraph style and I'll apply both of them to the entire paragraph. This, I just got to say, just don't. And the key is don't apply a character style to an entire paragraph. That's what paragraph styles are for. Character styles are for individual characters inside of a paragraph, like one word or one sentence or just a couple, some small amount of text, maybe even just one character, a little section. If you ever find a paragraph that has a character style applied to the entire thing, you or somebody, whoever created that document, is doing it wrong. Just going to tell you right out, don't do it. You will get yourself into horrible, horrible problems if you start applying character styles to an entire paragraph. That's not what they're there for.
There's an emoji for that too, right? It's the one that has like the teeth like this.
Yes. Yes.
No.
That's the one.
Yes.
You got it. I got it. Yeah. So character styles are really, really useful, but only for small amounts of text. And so what you really want to make sure is you've got a paragraph style for all the paragraph formatting, like what font and size and indents and all of that, and just a few character styles. Like right now, I've got one called italic. So my italic text, I'm going to apply italic character style. And again, it's not the whole paragraph, just maybe one word. So going back to my original problem here, I've imported this text. I know this is not the way it's supposed to look. It looks like somebody in Microsoft Word changed the font and changed this and that. And I know it. I especially know that it's not right because inside the paragraph styles panel, see that little plus sign? The plus sign means there's overrides, local formatting on top of the style. And if I hover there, if you squint, you'll see a little tooltip that says, this is what's wrong. This is what's on top of what's supposed to be there. So that's helpful. Second way to tell what's wrong is I love this button up here. This little button in the upper right corner of the paragraph styles panel shows the overrides. Anything that's blue is wrong.
So everything is wrong.
Everything
so again,
is wrong.
Cringe
Cringe
emoji.
emoji, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I will soften that a little bit. It doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong, but it means that there's local formatting on top of what is supposed to be there in InDesign. So some people work with this on all the time so they can tell. Some people just turn this button on and off and, and check. I'm going to leave it off because it's too overwhelming right now. Actually, no, let's turn it on. I'll turn it on. And now let's talk about how to get rid of it. how to set it back to the way it should be. So here's the trick. Ready? This is very complicated. Command or Control A to select everything, and then come down to the bottom of the paragraph styles panel. And that was exciting. Hold on. Let's pull this out here so we can see it better. Paragraph styles panel. There's a little character, a paragraph character with a little plus symbol. With a little, it's cross out. And that literally means get rid of the plus sign. Just wipe it out. Boom. Done.
Voila.
Et voila. Boom.
Voila. Boom.
Exactly. That removes everything. And I mean everything, all local formatting. Now, I may have wiped out stuff I didn't mean to wipe out, right? Let me undo that. Like down here, there's some words here that I know should have been
italicized. Yeah.
I need them, and I need them because if I don't, I'm in trouble, right? Because you can't wipe out everything. I want to wipe out most of it, but not everything. And so let me just show you a quick trick to get you there. And this is something I do, again, 90% of the files that I get, that I receive, that I have to lay out, I have to go through the same trick over and over again. So to do this, I'm going to go to the edit menu and choose find change, or Command or Control F, of course. I'm going to say find not text. I'm not looking for individual text. I'm looking for formatting down here. So if you don't see this, by the way, there's this more options and fewer options. You want to make sure you have more options on. And now click anywhere in this little blank area. And I'm going to say, find me any formatting that is literally italic. That's all. Just find stuff that's italic. And you'll see it down here. It says plus italic. That's local formatting. Somebody applied the italic text here. Change it. Click in this blank box down here. Change it to a character style, which I've already created, which literally applies the italic character style. Now, you'd think this is the same thing, but it's not. Local formatting is different than a character style being applied to it. Then I simply say change all. And here, search should probably be the entire document, not just this one story, but do the entire document. Change all, found a few, and then we're done. We're good. Because we've applied it looked for anything that was formatted manually as italic, and it applied the italic character style. And as I said, I made that character style. That doesn't come with InDesign, but that's a topic for another day, how to make character styles. But I've made that, and it applied it. In fact, let's open this here. And if I click down in this text over here, it says no character style. If I click in this text over here, there it is, the italic character style. So we know it worked. That's all. We know that find change applied the character style, the italic character style, just to the text it needed to. And now, Command A or Control A, select everything, wipe out all the formatting, wiped out everything, but not the stuff that had character styles.
That is amazing.
Super, super helpful. I do that same thing over and over again. It's a little bit annoying. I wish that were like just built into InDesign, but that's one of those things that you just have to know how to do. Apply your character styles and then wipe out everything except the character styles. That's what that really does down here. So little things, big changes, big differences.
Again, mega efficiency.
Yes. That's in the handouts as well. There's a note in the handouts as well that you can get that if you need that step by step. That's a good one. I want to point out one other thing down here. If I
can we go to the chat quickly, because there's a lot happening. Since we mentioned the cringe emoji, there's like a full conversation happening. So there's a lot.
Okay.
So Clever is saying, I'm enjoying the new improved text between Illustrator and InDesign, where it's keeping like the styling, which is amazing. That is like chef kiss.
Yes.
And everyone's saying, me too.
Yes. That was something. Can you believe it? It took over 20 years for Adobe to get into that you could copy formatted text between InDesign and Illustrator. That was like, what took so long? but anyway, I'm glad it's there. It's yay.
I'm happy to be living in these days today, because there's so much that technology can do for me now.
Yes, that's true.
So we have we have Annika saying, David Blatner himself, hello. So very happy to see you.
Hi, Annika.
We have some people doing some promotion for you as well. So Uma Korn is saying, can we have David back for a masterclass or something?
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
And then we also have Oliver saying, David has a 5-hour course on LinkedIn Learning. It's already in my queue. So there Great. You go.
So
a lot of love in the chat.
Oh,
and then
that's nice.
Rob is saying, I always cringe editing other people's work who use character style on top of paragraph style. It usually means I'm rebuilding from scratch.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I feel your pain, Rob. So yes. Oh, and then when we talked about the boom and voila, everyone in the chat was boom. Oh my gosh. And just like sharing a bunch of emojis. You have to rewatch your own stream. Just see like the conversation that is happening, because it's very entertaining.
I will. I love that. And yeah, and I apologize to everyone who's chatting in there. I don't have access to that right now. I'm just on camera, but I will go back and take a look at all of that later for sure. And thank you so much for everyone mentioning my LinkedIn Learning courses. I do InDesign Essential training on LinkedIn Learning. We do a lot of stuff at CreativePro, of course, and I do courses on InDesign, all kinds of courses elsewhere. So good.
So we are in great hands today, because you truly know what you're doing.
I know a couple things.
Just a couple, right?
I know a couple of things about this program. Look, everybody has their favorite place, their place where I call it their hub. It's the main application that you always want to go back to, the center of your workflow. And for me, that's InDesign. InDesign is my happy place. When I'm in InDesign, I know everything is. I want everything to fall into InDesign. InDesign is an aggregator, right? The whole point of InDesign is get Word files and Photoshop files and Illustrator files and bring them all into one place. And it is the best tool on the planet. I've used a lot of page layout tools over my years, and it's the best tool out there to bring everything together into one place. So I can bring RGB images from Photoshop into InDesign, and then I can bring a CMYK file from Illustrator into InDesign. I can have different resolutions. I can have all these different things, and I can build a page, and that page can either be for print or interactive or EPUB for book readers. It can be almost anything. I can build almost anything in InDesign. So it's my happy place. What can I say? All those other tools, I like to joke that, Photoshop and Illustrator and all those things, those are all just basically plugins for InDesign for me. Right? It's like Photoshop's a great plugin for InDesign, isn't it? It's awesome, but ultimately everything I do there is going to end up in InDesign. So I just see it as an extension in that way.
That's it. I think it depends also on the type of work that you do. But in your case, I think that's where you spend the most time. I'd be curious to know in the chat right now, what is your place of creation? Share what is your favorite software, and let's have a discussion on that. We clearly know what David says.
That's right. So. Yeah. I'd love to see that. Please do share. InDesign is great for certain things, but you're absolutely right, Izzy, that if you're a photographer, obviously InDesign is not going to be your hub. For you, it's going to be Lightroom or Photoshop, something over there. If you're in package design, InDesign, Illustrator, you got to use it. Yeah, I've tried package design in InDesign, and it's not pretty. But you have to have some sort of hub that you're going to be working with. That said, I will say a lot of people use the wrong hub. There are so many people using Photoshop or Illustrator for magazines. I'm going to lay out my magazine in Photoshop. Why? Well, because that's the tool I know. Dude, just say no. Use InDesign. Use the right tool for the job. Ultimately, is what it comes down to.
And that's okay, because you can always come to Adobe Live to learn about all these tools, and you have a community right here. And
Absolutely.
again, leverage your knowledge, level up your creativity, and like meet some awesome people while you're doing it. So
Yes.
hey,
Yes.
this is my hub. Adobe Live is my hub.
I love that. Adobe Live is my hub.
Yes.
That's good, because it all comes back here. It all comes back to Adobe Live. Now
it does.
Now Adobe Live, can I just go off on a thing here for a second? The problem with Adobe Live is it is live, but it's not in person. And I wish that I were in the room there with you. We could actually be, all of you, I wish that we could all be talking together. And that in-person experience is what we can get from conferences that we've lost over the past few years. A lot of people haven't had that in-person experience. That's why Adobe Max, I've been speaking at Adobe Max for over a decade. Adobe Max is so great. Yes, like you were saying, you were at my session. Yes. Having that in-person experience is different. Same thing, I'm just going to do it, forgive me, a commercial plug for CreativePro Week, which we're doing in June in Arizona. It will also be online, it's live streamed, but the in-person experience is just magic. You can just go so much farther, so much deeper when you're in the room, being able to ask questions and go back and forth and have that kind of interactivity with the experts. So I just had to throw that out there. I love Adobe Live, love it. This is awesome. And I also love having that in-person experience when you can get it. So
I think if you can get, as a creative, if you can put yourself in a situation where you have both, right? Because I think having a network online from people all over the world is very important, because you never know what can happen from that. And I'm like the one to, vouch for that. And the in-person as well, because the atmosphere is different. And even if you're an introvert, like put yourself out there. So absolutely. I think having a good balance of both is great. Hey, if you start here, then come to Adobe Max after, like you get the best of both worlds. So yeah.
and it's there, it's true. There's a lot of people who can't come to the live event or the in-person event, and I really respect that. We're working with a guy named Doffer in Baghdad right now, and he is such a great force on the InDesign Secrets forum. We run a Facebook group called InDesign Secrets. So anybody who's interested in InDesign and learning more about InDesign, we have this InDesign Secrets group on Facebook that he's one of our moderators. He's amazing. And the idea of having people from all over the world come together in one virtual group, like at InDesign Secrets, it's amazing. I mean, it's magical. It's magical.
It's magical. Yes.
It is. So we do InDesign Secrets group on Facebook, and we also have InDesign Secrets group on LinkedIn. So those are the two places that you can find us. Okay, we better do some more tips.
Yes, because we're like 20 minutes to the end of their stream already. Yes, and it's going so fast.
We're gonna do more tips. More tips. Is there an emoji for more tips?
More tips would be I don't know, is it the one like that with all the like exclamation mark at the top? Like, okay, let's get to work. Like
good. That's good. I like that.
That was quick thinking.
Let's just do a couple other crazy things here. This is crazy, really. But I just got to show, you mentioned Illustrator earlier, and the thing about Illustrator is that everybody is all excited right now about Illustrator 2023 having Intertwine, right? The Intertwine feature. Yes. And I'm like, that's neat. That's okay.
It is pretty cool.
It is pretty okay.
Cool. It's pretty cool.
Now, why am I less excited? Because we have had Intertwine in InDesign forever. What?
What? Show us.
How are we going to intertwine these two so that these two circles link? We want to create a link, right? This is a crazy little tip. Now, granted, it's not as easy as just click and it's there, but it's almost as easy as that. Ready? Here's how we do it. We take two objects that we want to intertwine. I'm going to drag a graphic frame. The graphic frame is the one with
the X.
A little X in it for a graphic frame. The X is supposed to indicate that there's something that goes in it. Drag a frame over the area that I want to intertwine. Then I'm going to grab the object from behind, in this case, that magenta circle, and I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. Then I select the frame again, and I don't paste. Paste won't work. That's bad, right? I go to edit, paste into, paste it into the frame that was selected.
What? No way. Oh, wait, hold on. Boom.
That's Intertwine. We've been doing Intertwine. Now, granted, most people don't know how to do that, but now you do. Everybody here knows how to do Intertwine in Adobe InDesign. Should we do it again? And
absolutely.
By the way, you don't want to move it later because that you can see the trick. It's like seeing how the magic trick is done, right? Let's do it down here on the other side. We have two objects. We want to intertwine. We draw out a frame that goes over them, and then we select the object behind, in this case, the pink circle, copy it to clipboard, select the frame that we want to put it into, and say paste into, and we're done. Now voila. I have the voila. We have the preview mode on right now. That's the W key in InDesign. W goes on and off. You could now preview's off. I can see the edges. W key goes in preview mode so I can see what it would look like final. Then I'm going to select all of those objects and group them, Command or Control G. So now if I move something, they'll both move together. So otherwise, like now the trick, you can't see how the trick was done. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do in InDesign built in that very few people know how to do.
So quick question on my end, actually. So if you were to outline the shape, would it still stay intact?
If you would outline, well, there's no outline. In this case, these are like, just frames. Because
they're strokes, right? So if you were to vectorize them, would it stay there?
Well, they are strokes, but they are still vector. They're not. So these things are still.
So then, sorry, I'm probably explaining myself not in the right way. But if you were to change the stroke into a shape, like a full.
We cannot do that in InDesign. I can't turn that into a shape. I can't expand, like in Illustrator, it's called expand appearance. You can't do that in InDesign. You always. I was so close to having a perfect tip here. But we can go and change.
But it's good to know. It's good to know that we can. So then if we do need that, then we would do it elsewhere, right?
Yes. In general, Illustrator is still maybe the better tool for most stuff. Most illustration type stuff, I agree. I would do it in Illustrator. But I just, like I said, because I will always try and do stuff first in InDesign. And then if I need to go farther, I can take it over to Illustrator. Now, I can copy and paste these from InDesign into Illustrator and maintain the vectors.
Yes.
And then I can do more stuff with it, which is kind of cool. By the way, this is a group of objects, right? I grouped it with that Command or Control G. If I want to change something inside of a group, I double click. Remember how I said if you want to place your cursor into a text frame, you double click? If I want to select inside of a group, I double click. And now I've selected inside the group, and I can change this to some other color, for example. Now you can see how the trick is being done. So I'm going to, then I can click inside here. Come on. I can double click to select this object inside the group. And I can even select inside that by double clicking again and changing this to the color again. So double clicking goes in, escape key on your keyboard jumps out. So double click to go in, escape key to come out. Little things that you can do on your keyboard or mouse to make things more efficient in InDesign. Could be handy. Okay. Oh my gosh, there's so many things where we could go here. I want to say I am really stuck on this topic of customizing InDesign to the way that you work. And so I want to keep coming back to this and hitting this point. I'm going to look at the links panel, for example. And actually, before we do that, let's get some more pictures in here because I don't have many pictures. So let's go grab some pictures from here, maybe these bamboo images. I'm going to grab a bunch of images here, and I can just click on one and then shift click on the other ones, or command or control click on discontiguous ones, or however you want. I'm going to grab a bunch of pictures and import them all at the same time. I love this ability in InDesign. You don't have to select one and then go back into another one and go back. Just grab all of them. And you'll see that on my place cursor, they're all there. And there's no way you're gonna be able to see this, but if you squint, there's a little tiny number that says I have 7 images on there. And I can move through them by using the arrow keys on my keyboard. So I can say, which one do I want now? Okay, I want this one now. Or I want this one now, and so on. So you can move through and you can add them just by, I'm just clicking and dragging. Or I'll undo those to reload up the place cursor. Or I can add all of them at the same time. Now, to add them all at the same time, or a bunch of them at the same time, I'm going to use the Gridify feature in InDesign. This is a crazy important feature. I'm dragging out one image, and then I'm going over, and with my other hand, I'm going to press the up arrow on my keyboard. And can you see how it split it in half? And then I'll press again, and I'll press the right arrow a couple of times. And now I've created a grid of, it's kind of ghosted back there, but I've created a grid. And then when I let go of the mouse button, they all come into the grid.
Oh my.
I love this feature. This is so helpful. So I now have 7 images that I've brought in all at the same time, and it made a little grid of them. The images don't fill the frames in all instances, but that's okay, because we can fix that quickly. There's all kinds of stuff we could do quickly here. While these are still selected, I could go to the object menu, come down to convert shape, and I could say, let's turn these into circles, an ellipse. Can you still see that down there at the very bottom?
Yes.
Ellipse. So I changed it to an ellipse. They're kind of sad circles. They're not really circles there, but they're ellipses. Let's make them circles. Let's go ahead and go all the way here. To make it a circle, you take an ellipse, and you want the width and height to be the same, right? So I'm going to say I want this to be, let's say, 10 picas by 10. Whoops, that didn't go well. Let's say 11 points by 11 points. There we go, 11 picas. So now it's a circle. Now I want all of the rest to be circles as well, right? So I select this one, and I could type that in again, or use a keyboard, or use a feature built in. Object, transform again. I love this feature.
Oh.
Transform again means all the changes I just made, do it again. Just do them again. Moving, rotating, scaling, whatever, do it again. Now, in this case, I actually did 2 different transforms. I changed the width and I changed the height. That actually counts as 2. So I don't want to use transform again. I want to use transform sequence again, because it says all the things you did in a row. So I could say move, rotate, scale, whatever, and it would do that whole sequence again. Boom, now that's a circle. Or I could select all the rest of these, the other 5, and say object, transform again, transform sequence again individually. And this means do that same thing, but to each one. 1, 2, 3, boom. So they're all changed to circles. I'm going to select all of those and go to the object menu and say fitting, fill the frame proportionally, which means make sure the image is big enough so that I don't have any white area sticking out the sides. Right. So now I've filled all the frames individually. So that's one way that I could get, I don't know, some kind of pretty attractive effect.
That is great. So the Gridify option for that, I'm thinking as a brand designer myself, I always propose what an Instagram grid could look like within the brand. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be so easy to make. This is great.
That is a great idea. Let me just grab one of these. I'm going to duplicate this one over on the side here by holding the Option or Alt key, by dragging Option or Alt drag will duplicate something, right? And let's just zoom in to 100% here so we can see this better. And let's check. I'm sorry, your comment there just made me go off on a whole tangent in my head. So let me set this back to rectangles, and I'm going to make this let's make this bigger. Oops, bigger. Come on.
And just so you know, we're close to wrapping up.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. So other ways that we can gridify. There's one thing I want to emphasize. Every InDesign user should try using a script. There's a bunch of scripts built into InDesign. So I'm going to go to the window menu and choose utilities and then choose scripts. And when I do that, I get the scripts panel. What's that? Don't be afraid of scripts. Scripts are a great way to automate a bunch of things in InDesign. So just try this out. You have this already built into InDesign. You open the scripts panel and you open up the application folder inside here, and then samples, and then choose JavaScript. And there's a bunch of scripts that are built in here. You don't have to know anything about scripting. This is just features this is like a way to add features to InDesign. So I'm going to select this image here, and I'm going to use one called Make Grid. So we saw how to make a grid from a bunch of images, but in this case, I'm going to make a grid of just this one. So I've split that into 4 separate images, right? Let's undo that. Let's go back and try this one more time. Now, if you're doing something for Instagram, let's say, you might not want the gutter. You might want to break this apart and say, I want like a 2x3, and say we want this to be 0 and 0. And now it split it up into 1, 2. Oh, I've got a duplicate hiding back there. So that's actually a cool effect. You could make all kinds of cool effects here by splitting these things up into little objects. So all kinds of things you can do in InDesign. Try out these scripts. There's stuff on CreativePro. If you just go to creativepro.com and search for InDesign sample scripts, you'll find, I wrote a whole article about this. It's all free, and you can learn more about it.
So we have some, like, Rob's scripts and data merge are huge in caps. Annika saying, I love data merge. Yes, please. I've never used the grid script. So there you go, Annika. This is your time to try it.
Yes, try it out. That's a good one for sure. Okay. What do you think? Do we have a little time?
Yeah. So we have like 5 minutes before 6 minutes before we had a hard out. So
we could do like 50 more tips in 50.
Oh man.
Okay, maybe not.
Maybe one more tip. Maybe one more tip. Then we can look a little bit at what we did. Just like maybe mention what we have worked on, and promote yourself.
let me say one more tip here then. This goes back to the customize InDesign to the way you work. And I want to talk about customizing the links panel. The links panel is such an important part of InDesign, where it tracks all the files that you've linked to, all the graphics typically that you've linked to. You can technically link to text files, Word files, Excel documents, but it's rare that you'd want to do that. Generally, you're linking to graphics. And so we can see all the graphics here, and people like, okay, well, that was pretty exciting. It works. But what people don't realize is you can customize this to make it far more helpful for you. To do that, go to the links panel menu, this little hamburger thing in the upper right corner, and say panel options. And you can change this, and you can add all kinds of stuff to your links panel. For example, here's the one I would always do, effective PPI. So, you know, when you import a bitmapped image from Photoshop, there's a resolution in Photoshop, which is the actual PPI. But then if you scale it down, the resolution goes up. And if you scale it up, then the resolution goes down. So you always want to know, what's the resolution right now? That's the effective PPI. So turn it on. There's all kinds of, so let's see, we could say what pages that's on. Okay, this is getting kind of crazy, but I'm going to scroll down here to folder 0. Folder 0 is the name of the folder that this graphic is in. So I'll turn that on. Folder 1 is the name of the folder that folder 0 is in. So this turns out to be super helpful because you often you're taking images from all over your hard drive or the server or whatever. And it's like, well, where the heck is this image? I don't know. Right now I can see, and let's make this even wider. And then I'm going to make these columns wider so we can see that this one is from graphics inside eSeminars. These are all in the Bamboo images, so that's not very exciting, but you get the idea. And the most important thing is, again, the effective resolution. So if I take this one, and as soon as I click on it, it highlights in the links panel. If I make this much bigger, the resolution goes down. If I make it smaller, the effective resolution goes way, way up. So those are the, you can customize it to the way you work. And you can even sort this. So if I click up at the top, I can sort it from the lowest to highest, or click again, highest to lowest resolution. Really helpful when you have a lot. If you have, imagine, have 150 images, which one of these are too low? Which one of these do I need to, right? So somebody copied one from the internet and it's only 72 PPI and ugly. So that's some of the things you can do by customizing the links panel. And by the way, once you customize your links panel, going full circle back to the workspace tip at the beginning, once you customize the links panel, you can save this workspace, and the workspace remembers what your settings were in the links panel and the size of the links panel and all of that. So go ahead and customize it to the way you work and then save it as a workspace, and you will be a happier person from now on. So
love it. Again, all the yes, yeah, voila, boom.
No more gritting teeth. We want to avoid the gritting teeth.
No more cringe. Yeah.
No more cringe. We want exploding heads. That's right.
Yes, David, it has been a wonderful time, like just learning all of this with you. I know that everyone in the chat was engaged and like taking notes, and like I feel like a better designer just watching. I can't wait to go and implement it myself. So where can we find you?
So I'm the best ways to find me really are on those groups, like the InDesign Secrets group on Facebook and LinkedIn. You can find me at CreativePro.com, of course. And if you want to find me and actually sit down and have lunch or something, then find me at CreativePro Week, which is going to be in Phoenix, Arizona in June. So go to CreativeProWeek.com and learn more about that. We will. I also wanted to mention, and I don't know if this is in the handouts, you can get a discount, $100 discount to $100 discount off any multi-day pass at Creative Pro Week by using the code Adobelive. Just all one word. Adobelive gets you $100 off. Or if you want to sign up for the Creative Pro membership, we have a whole membership thing. You'll learn about it. Adobelive, the same code, gets you $10 off of that. So it's always good to get a little deal somewhere, I figure. So
yes,
sign up for that.
Thank you so much.
I don't mean this to be a commercial plug, but I just want to make sure everyone gets at least a little bit of a good deal. And if you don't take us up on that, go ahead and download those free resources. Because look, there's a lot out there. We have thousands of articles on Creative Pro, thousands of articles about how to get better with InDesign. Go take advantage of them. They're all free. So
there you go. So make sure to check this out. Stay tuned to join Alex Lazarus as he builds a new logo and collateral system for photography business. A moment in time. Follow along with Alex as he creates a new logo in Illustrator and brings it into Adobe Express for some final touches. Thank you so much again, David. And thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you so much, Izzy. Bye.